Okay, welcome everyone to another exciting edition of SecureDApp's Bharat Security Initiative. My name is Harshajit and I'm your host for the session today. So those who are, not aware of me, I'll just give you a quick background. I'm a Web3 journalist. I have more than 7 years under my belt, and I have been, breaking stories about Web3, crypto, blockchain, cybersecurity, and to be precise, all about the tech. And yeah, we are anticipating a really exciting and incredible session today that is going to cover the nitty gritty of cybersecurity in the Web3 and decentralized space. Okay, so yeah, today we have Dr. Nikhil Varma. Nikhil serves as the technical lead at Algorand Foundation's India arm, AlgoBharat, where he engages with universities, companies, and to accelerate the diffusion of blockchain technology in India. Nikhil is an associate professor at Ramapo College of New Jersey and a guest professor at IIT Delhi and at Molde University, Norway, where he teaches supply chain analytics and blockchain related courses. Nikhil is a thought leader and a total expert in the field. And yeah, welcome to the session, Nikhil. It's really, really, amazing to have you here at the show.
Thank you, Harshjit. Well, thought leader and experts are just two very big designations. I'm just an enthusiast. I love blockchain, and that's what I usually do. That's the only thing I do, in fact. I tell
Right.
many people the
And
only
I'm
thing that
sure,
I do is blockchain.
right. And I'm sure we are going to gain some, some serious wisdom from you, some valuable insights and everything. So, okay, for today's topic, we are going to talk about securing the future of finance, innovations in digital asset protection and DeFi. As we are moving really fast to DeFi, the whole internet ecosystem is evolving. We are moving from Web 2 to Web 3. Things are becoming decentralized. I think it is the need of the hour that we talk about this topic. We spread awareness and kind of make people aware of what's happening in the ecosystem. So, would you like to give a quick rundown on what are your thoughts on this whole the topic that we have today?
Before we get into DeFi, right? I mean, DeFi is enabled by blockchain, right? And one of the things that I always say is whenever I kind of give my introduction talk to blockchain for blockchain is we kind of we miss the main picture. What was the whole idea of blockchain, right? Blockchain was set up to give social justice. That's one key thing that we should not forget. The idea is to give opportunity to people who do not have an opportunity. What we've created with all these enterprise or these big systems, there is a certain degree of opaqueness in these systems. There is a barrier to entry. People who get left out are left out forever. And blockchain opens this, like, it's the North Star here, right? What it does is it brings in this promise that we are going to be open. We will give everybody a voice. Yeah, of course, in the recent past, we've seen a lot of big enterprises jump in. The the price of Bitcoin is fluctuating because enterprises are just picking up Bitcoin because they think it'll hit 7 million. Okay, fine. Who knows? It might, or it might not even hit there. But besides this money aspect, why blockchain and what is DeFi, right? Whenever you are building anything in DeFi, what are we trying to do here? Are we trying to build an application which has inclusion? If it does not have inclusion, Harshajit, I would not call it a DeFi project. I would,
Definitely.
it's just another financial project. So my thought about DeFi is empowerment,
Correct.
social justice, bringing in, small people can who have like $100 in their wallet have the ability to dream, have the ability to buy assets, have the ability to buy real estate. Why not? Right? Uh, this is what DeFi is. DeFi for me is empowerment, and this empowerment makes it open.
Right.
Correct. It's like nowadays when we go for a wedding in India, you have to give a card. Yeah,
Right.
you have to show your card at the entrance. Nobody knows anyone. You're invited by somebody. You show a card, and then they just let you in. Yeah. Back in those days, we used to go for the wedding. It used to be like everybody knows everyone, right?
Correct.
So you're kind of bringing back those days where everybody should know everyone. Of course, there is privacy. This slightly different. I'm just giving you an analogous example, but it should be more open. It should not be an exclusive thing, but that opens a lot of risks, right? We have seen so many movies in India where this guy just dresses up and goes into a wedding and gets to eat food,
Right.
right? So that's what is happening in this DeFi space. That's where security becomes a more critical aspect.
Correct.
And that's my just, an overarching
Right.
impression of DeFi. And I love DeFi, but at the same time, I'm kind of very worried about how do we kind of secure DeFi, because every day now and every other day we hear something being breached, right?
Right, right. I mean, we have not even gone to the main part of the whole webinar yet, and it's already turning so interesting. I'm really, really looking forward to it. So, okay, for the folks who have joined us, it's time for a poll. You'll get a question on your screen. Please take about 10-15 seconds to respond to it. You may stand a chance to win SecureDApp merchandise. Please take your time and just respond to the poll.
Luckily, I have merchandise, so I won't respond to that part.
Very good. Okay, so I'll just quickly. We have. Cool. So we move on to the main discussion of this whole webinar, and we have like certain set of questions that we are going to ask you. Some may come off like really, really from the nitty gritty. Okay, so the first question would be what does digital asset protection mean when in context of DeFi? We have like so many coins there. We have so many various kinds of assets there. What does it mean, when we talk about protecting these assets? What's your take on that?
I mean, this whole, open wedding example that I was giving you, right? And that's the same thing. It's an open system,
Right.
right? I mean, if we talk about a traditional system that we are used to when you talk about finance, right? What do we have? We have some kind of an access system,
Right.
but that is secured by somebody else. Yeah.
Right.
And over here, that somebody else is a protocol, essentially, right? So, when we talk about digital asset protection, most of the things, or in fact, all of the things that will be in a blockchain, in a DeFi protocol, even if it is a representation of a real world asset, will be in a digital format.
Right.
And what we need to ascertain is all these different transactions that we do, all these different exchanges that we do, all these creation process that we do has to somehow be protected from any kind of, you know, we'll talk about all the different malicious intents that people
Right.
have,
Right.
to be able to make sure that, uh, uh, it doesn't get into the wrong hands. Now, the problem over here is that, yes, of course, we are building a different kind of a system around it, but the whole core philosophy was open and decentralized,
Okay.
right? And when you say open and decentralized, Harshjit, the interesting aspect is now there is no recourse that you have. I mean, a pure open and decentralized system, yeah. Anybody can come in. I mean, we know countries like North Korea are thriving by just having hackers sent out to DeFi protocols, and that's how they are kind of making money. We have all kinds of, even if you know that a wallet has stolen money from you,
Right.
what is the recourse that you have?
Correct.
Yeah. So that's one of the key problems that we see in in a DeFi protocol. That's where the digital asset protection aspect becomes very complex, much more complex than somebody else protecting it for you.
Right.
Yeah. So this, I mean, just to kind of answer your question from the perspective of what is digital asset protection in the context of decentralized finance,
Right.
it is a protocol that we design. It is the mechanisms, it is the entry points that we design to be able to make sure that our assets that we hold are protected.
Perfect. 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 I think that makes a lot of sense. So the next question would be, why has asset security become a top concern for DeFi protocols and users? I mean, is it there must be various other concerns that could be addressed, but again, we kind of put that protection on top of the priority list. Why is that the case? Or could you think of
I
an
mean,
analogy that you can share with us?
yeah, analogies, several analogies, right?
Right.
I mean, we as Indians, we must have seen a lot of. I mean, I'm a big fan of Bollywood movies and cricket, so always try to bring those examples just
Certainly.
to be able to simplify things. But you must have we've seen so many movies where there is a killer, there is a fort, right,
Right.
which is on its own, right? What is it? It is a decentralized system.
Correct.
Yeah, of course, it gets funding and money from outside also, but it is a decentralized system,
Correct.
right? And the way these forts used to be set up in the past was that if there was enemy that comes around you, they would still be able to survive. They will still be able to protect, right?
Right.
Now, similarly, imagine a fort with so much of riches. Suppose you are getting into a protocol where a lot of money has been staked, and then this DeFi protocol is giving out short-term loans and so on and so forth, just
Mhm.
like a normal banking system. Yeah. What is going to happen? It's going to attract all these enemies around because there's so much of gold inside that they would like
Right.
to kind of attack, right? And this is a fort, right? Now you have to have mechanisms to be able to make sure that they are not able to get in first. So you dig up holes around your fort and they're
Right.
not able to get in, right? So
Right.
now we have created something like an entry barrier. Yeah.
Right.
And suppose they get in also, then you have some mechanisms to be able to kind of shoo them off,
Right.
basically, right? But if they get in, what are the other mechanisms that we have to be able to protect ourselves?
Okay.
Yeah. So, in many ways, I feel that this is a concern that we have. Unlike the traditional finance, it's not like a setup as a fort. Traditional finance is a very centralized kind of a system. If something happens in one place, then there are different kinds of recourses that could happen.
Mhm.
Over here, if somebody has stolen the money and is gone, it is very difficult for
Right.
that decentralized fort, for that fort to be able to recoup that.
Okay.
People will lose money forever. So that's why this is a very big concern. Openness, as I started out by saying, social justice. Yeah.
Right.
One of the things that I feel is that this openness has become our problem also.
Of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah. I mean, we want to be inclusive, but then who's coming in, we don't know, right?
Right.
The other thing is decentralization is also a problem for purists in the world of decentralization. If you tell them, if you steal my asset,
Right.
I'll get it back from you, they'll be like, oh, this is not decentralization. This was the whole fight that
Right.
Ethereum had with the DAO project, right? I mean, when Ethereum said, I'm going to do a hard fork to be able to delete that money that was stolen from the DAO project wallet,
Right.
there were people who said, "Oh, no, 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 this is not decentralization. How are you doing it?" And that gave rise to Ethereum Classic and Ethereum, right?
Right.
So this is the whole purist view. I mean, not a pragmatic view, but kind of sticking to the basics of what decentralization is, what blockchain is, can sometimes become an impediment, and that's why it's a big security concern.
Right. Right. So it's more or less like a double-edged sword. I mean, we get the
Correct.
right. So you gave the analysis of building mechanisms around it. Now, could you just put it in a core tech perspective? Like, what could those mechanisms be, if you have to?
Yeah, I mean, see, what exactly is a DeFi protocol, right? DeFi protocol is something where you do some kind of a financial transaction,
Right.
right? To be able to do a financial transaction, what all things do we need? We need some kind of an identity, we need a wallet, we need a some kind of tokens, right? And then we need to have some kind of an interface to be able to interact with that protocol, correct? I feel one of the key things is to be able to firstly make sure, and this could be done at an application layer, to be able to make sure that
Right.
the identities are validated, right? I mean, I'm just going to just go a
Right.
little bit, take a little bit of a segue here. One of the problems which DeFi is facing is, as you know, in current times, there are so many restrictions that people have, right? I run a DeFi protocol. I have to go to only certain places in the world where I will be able to host it.
Right.
Because if I run it from a particular country and somebody from some other country gets in, then the government is going to come after me, right? So a KYC process in an application layer or a DID process, decentralized identity process,
Mhm.
would first make sure that the person who's coming is an authentic.
Okay.
Yeah. That's the very first thing. Then comes in the protocol. Then comes in the smart contract that you implement. Yeah,
Right.
and these. Smart contracts are written in diamond dozen. Everybody I talk to nowadays say, "Oh, so I deployed a smart contract." I said, "That's very good. Where did you deploy the smart contract?" On mainnet. Really? You should be testing the smart contract for at
Right.
least 2 years. Is your smart contract, have you done any kind of a formal verification of a smart contract? वो क्या होता है? That's the problem, right? So we have to make sure that these security models, because it is an open system, everybody is building. We don't know the depth of security that has come in, right? And tools like systems like SecureDApp, they are what they are doing is they are kind of in a way, like by creating avenues like this, first of all making people aware,
Right.
hey, what you are doing, you might not have malintentions, you might be genuinely looking to solve a problem, but it would turn out where people would end up losing money if you don't have security tied to it, right? So we need to have things like logic errors to be able to make sure that the smart contract is working fine. We need to make sure entry is there. Now, a smart contract needs something which is called an oracle. Yeah.
Okay. Yep.
Uh, and oracles are single point of failure. So basically, a smart contract is something like, if this happens, then
Mm-hmm.
do this. Yeah. Now, what determines that this particular event has happened? So suppose I say, if the temperature is more than 47 degrees,
Right.
then give me my parametric insurance, which is the weather insurance.
Right.
All right. Okay. And I recently spoke about this with an example of New Jersey, but I'll give you an example of India, especially because it's getting hot there, so people will understand.
Right.
Okay. So suppose we have a parametric insurance for daily workers.
Okay.
All right. And this parametric insurance for daily worker is that they will not be able to get their daily wage if the temperature hits very high. So suppose
Okay.
if it goes more than 47 degrees centigrade, then they will not be able to they will not be able to go out and work. And there is a parametric insurance that is given to them. This is again a social thing. It sounds very good, right? But what's going to happen is, who's going to determine that it's 47 degrees? It's
Right.
an oracle, right? At the time of deployment of a smart contract, the oracle has to be identified. It cannot be an ad hoc process. Okay, so it's very well defined. However, if that oracle location is hacked, right?
Right.
Suppose I go in and manipulate it. Yeah, what's going to happen, right? If the oracle is under somebody's control, then these are uh, 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 this can become a potential risk to the smart contract, because if I just go and manipulate the temperature, it's 35 degrees, it's 45, 49 degrees. Suddenly people will be able to go to the smart contract and take all kind of money. But
Right.
then if you have a security, if you have ID'd the person,
Mm-hmm.
then now you know who's kind of scammed you. Yeah.
Right.
So you could have multiple mechanisms built in. I mean, just name it. There are so many different issues that we have, Harjit. There are issues like, you people have self custody wallets.
Right.
Yeah. Now, these self custody wallets, I interact with a Web3 system by connecting to a Web3 system.
Right.
I create a Web3 system, which is a phishing Web3 system, which is going to kind of copy your private keys. This has happened to so many of us.
Right.
Even happened to me also when I was not being careful. Okay,
Yeah.
so it takes your private keys, and then once it has your private keys, then it can do anything that it wants. Right now, it's going
Right.
to take away all the money in your wallet, all the tokens, all the ownership that you have in your wallet.
Mhm.
Right. So these are more of a local system, and but then coming on to the broader system, smart contract exploits are there. The money getting shifting from one platform to the other. You need to have bridges. There could be issues in bridges. Uh, then these protocols also have, because they're decentralized, their models are defined by some kind of a governance. So essentially, I have tokens, so I can vote for any changes in the protocol. But suppose I do an attack, a brute force attack, and take all the governance tokens, then I can destroy the protocol, right?
Right.
Uh, Very recently, we've seen rug pulls, like issues like, somebody launches a token and says, oh, in one day you will become a millionaire. People
Right.
go and put money and then they disappear, right? So these are just to name a few. I mean, they're more complicated ways of attacking a DeFi protocol. I'm not teaching that, I'm not explaining that, but I'm aware of them. Yeah.
Right. Right. Okay. So you mentioned vulnerabilities about smart contracts and manipulations in Oracle. So how a protocol can actually approach or make sure that doesn't happen and stay ahead of the game. Maybe, like, for example, they can actually be prepared beforehand any such mishap could happen.
Yeah. So, I mean, this philosophy, right, that comes in. There are two ways of looking at this, Harshit. One is prevention.
Right.
Yeah, because the more you invest in your prevention, right, the less you will have to invest in your curing process.
Certainly.
Correct? Right? So prevention, there is one prevention is right from the very onset. I have mechanisms which we don't have, unfortunately. I have mechanisms which define a standardized way of encoding a smart contract. Suppose I'm creating a financial asset, right? There are foundations now that have come in Europe, and people are actually looking to kind of migrate towards these kind of foundations. There's a startup based out of Hyderabad. They're doing something around this, where your financial assets cannot be built in an ad hoc manner. Like, you say, oh, ERC 721. Okay, what is ERC 721, my friend? Is that going to make your financial assets secure? I don't know. It's an NFT, and this is what we do in Ethereum. Same
Right.
thing in Algorand. We have ARCs. Yeah. Eh, these are built by the community to be able to do transactions, but these are not DeFi securely verified as yet. So we have to first come up with some kind of security standards, security encoding models, which everybody, each one of us follows. Yeah. And I feel that's the first thing that is missing for us to be able to secure these DeFi protocols.
Mhm.
Then comes the verification and validation process, right? This whole leapfrogging and this desire to get launched tomorrow and become a multimillionaire the next day is a very dangerous thing.
Right.
That's just a pipe dream that doesn't happen. If it happens, it is just an outside case. It's not going to happen with you.
Right.
All of you who are building DeFi protocols, build responsibly, launch the product, make it go on testnet, run it for a long period of time, do all kinds of brute force testing,
Right.
see all kinds of attacks, see all kinds of scenarios. You might not be able to see the scenarios when you're deploying it. Yeah. Once that prevention part is well taken care of, right, then comes the whole monitoring and some kind of an action.
Right.
You have to have contingencies built from a monitoring perspective. SecureDApp, amazing solution. What is SecureDApp going to do? SecureDApp is going to monitor systems. It's going to give you a trigger if there is some kind of a crazy behavior happening. Yeah.
Right.
It at some point, SecureDApp is also going to help you get compliant. So suppose there is an AML kind of a scenario. Yeah. Then you have to SecureDApp can be able to will be able to help you that with that. You can define certain kind of thing, but for that, it cannot be a very high level user. You have to be at some level to be able to understand the business process.
Right.
Yeah. And the next thing which I've been proposing recently, and in fact Algorand also has that, and this is something which I really like, is that you have to have some kind of a switch to turn things off, right?
True.
We hear many times that suddenly Trump decided to define tariffs and all markets started crashing,
Fashion.
right? Now all these markets are automated systems because they are built on protocols that do high frequency trading, and then market starts crashing. What do? We have a switch with the trip switch goes up, so
Right.
now we stop transactions. Yeah. So there is some kind of a time lock built, so that kind of affects the decentralized philosophy,
True.
right? But because somebody has the ability to turn the switches off, but somebody should have this ability to turn the switches off, in my opinion, even if it's multi-party or DAO which does it. But you have to have some mechanisms to be able to do that. Otherwise, it's going to be a very big problem. And this is not going to be scalable. We'll keep hearing things happening now, every now and then, and everybody would be resistant. Every time your success is good, but then it takes us 5 steps back. That's the
Right.
problem.
Right. True. Now that we have gone so much deep into that conversation, there's one thing I have like right in top of my head. It's more like a generalized thought that I just got. I mean, the Web3 whole ecosystem has evolved so much. We as folks who are already working in this particular domain are very well aware of the nitty gritty, the terms, and the security aspect. However, even though the industry has grown, become so big, there are people who are still not aware. They know how to transact, they know how to interact with certain DeFi platforms. They know how to, do you think somehow, the Web3 sector has, gone a little behind in terms of keeping the user base aware of the integrity? For if I have to give you an example, I kind of get these notifications on my phone that banks would, send you that nobody is going to ask for your OTP. Never share your OTP. I don't see such common basic, awareness from any player from the DeFi sector. Do you think we have somewhere like that?
So the point is that there is no player in the DeFi system. DeFi
Right,
is a protocol,
right,
right? In a clear way, right?
right,
And a protocol cannot keep saying, "Hey, don't interact with me," because it could do something to you,
right,
right? So that's the whole. So, Harshit, one of the things which I have kind of spoken about in the past also is, and that might sound very counterintuitive to people, especially in the blockchain spaces.
right,
You know, decentralization is your state N, not state one or state zero. You have to start from a centralized system. I mean, when I speak about decentralized autonomous organizations, suppose, I'm just going to give you an example here. Suppose all of us over here, like, we have 29 participants right now, and of course, a few people listening to us on YouTube.
right,
All of us decide that, hey, let's start a new business, a DAO based business. What
right,
is that business? We will do office rental, or we'll do kind of this whole, or we'll buy places, refurbish it, and make it shared office locations. Yeah. And all of us put in, like, suppose 1 lakh rupees, or it's a decent amount to be able to kind of lease a few places and get started. How many of us actually know how to run a shared office location here? You get me? None of us, right? Uh, Now, when you look at a centralized system, what happens? Oh, they might have shares or whatever, but there is a person who's a SME there, right?
right,
So over here, what I mention, talk about all the time is, then we can, in a very beautiful way, define smart contract, which gives away control to the community over a period of time,
right.
but not at the very onset,
True.
right? So, Harshjit, I will let you interact with your own custodial wallet, self custody wallet, when I am 100% sure that Harshjit knows the difference between a phishing site and a non-phishing site. Otherwise, I will do a self cust. I'll do a custodial wallet for you. Why? Because I care for your security. You get me? I mean, of course, you're a Web3 journalist. You would know all those things, but I'm just saying, anybody who gets started on this,
Right,
for them, we can do a bit of a hand holding. Like, my solution design, enterprise solution design, always starts from a custodial wallet.
right,
I'm a purist. I mean, I'm a blockchain, as I say, that's the only thing that I do. It's very counterintuitive. Most people would say, "Hey, you are a decentralized guy, what are you doing here? They should have their own wallets in their phone." I said, yeah, that's true, they should have their own wallet. What happens if they lose their private keys? There is no call center that they can call here, right? So I will build the best state of the art custodial systems where I don't have access to their private key. Yeah. And I will have their wallets under custody over a period of time. It becomes the new norm, right? It's like when smartphone came, I'm that old. When smartphones came for us, it was a big deal. For my kids, they would change screens as if when even they're less than 1 year. For them, it is no longer technology, right? So when Web3 becomes no longer a technology, but something which is embedded in the society, then security measures would be implicitly built. As of now, we are transforming to a Web3 technology. So I feel that we have to have a bit of a centralization to
mhm,
start with for the security of the users, and then move on to again, that could be guided by a protocol. It's no big brother like China, somebody's watching you by camera and then saying, okay, now I won't let you board the train. No, it's not that construct. What I'm suggesting over here is that over a period of time, because of your behavior, because of your understanding, I will give you more freedom, more latitude, and that would make the system more secure. This is more of a
right.
behavioral construct that I'm talking about.
So, certainly, I think the transition. I mean, okay. So from the transition from a centralized based system to that decentralized aspect, do you think there is an exact point, where when you make that pivot? Okay, let's now give up all the centralization principles and just go decentralized from now on. Do you think there's a certain strict point? where this happens?
No. So what I'm not suggesting that we should have centralized system. I'm saying we should have centralization in the user behavior pattern. Systems
Okay.
would still be decentralized. Okay.
Okay. Okay.
What I'm saying is that a pure decentralized system would have a pure decentralized user with a self-custody wallet going and interacting with the system, right?
Right.
I'm saying this is a decentralized system, but hey, you know what? I'm going to have your wallets for custody because I will make sure you're fine, right? It's just like, when you go to a location and they say, I won't let you play. Like, you go to a marketplace. Suppose, you're doing business, you go to a new, back in those days, we used to have community, right? The community won't let you get a bigger loan unless and until they've seen how you are, right?
Right.
It's more of a behavioral aspect, right? So that's what I'm trying to say is unless and until I see that you are able to see, and that not I, the protocol has
Protocol.
the,
Right.
that's where AI and other things come into play, has the ability to say this person seems to have done several transactions, they seem to understand the process, let's kind of give them more latitude when it comes to becoming purely decentralized from in their operations,
Right.
not necessarily the protocol has to be decentralized right from the very onset.
Right, right. True, makes sense. Now you mentioned AI, and I'm very much interested to kind of know your take on that intersection as well. I mean, I believe there's going to be an intersection where all the Web3 principles, technologies, and AI is going to kind of work or operate in that particular intersection, and definitely the security strategies and everything's are going to change, and that's going to
Right.
be super quick. Do you envision something of similar? Or do you have anything on top of your mind that you'd like to share in terms of security that could happen? More like a projection that you have in mind.
So, so first of all, AI, IoT, and blockchain is our end game, right? I mean, like a Marvel movie, right? So this is if you don't have AI, blockchain, IoT, we are missing something. When we have AI without blockchain, you are going to get into trouble. I mean,
Right.
we can have a discussion some other time about what are the issues with that. But blockchain is the infrastructure.
Right.
AI gives us, more power to the infrastructure, and IoT connects things into the infrastructure. These three things have to work in cohesion. Without that, it's not going to work, in my opinion. Now, coming to your question in very simple terms, AI will give me all the mechanisms to be able to identify patterns, like SecureDApp does that. Yeah.
Right.
Uh, if I see any kind of anomaly in the behavior pattern, what happens, right? There's some kind of an anomaly. I have to have those switches built in my protocol, by the way.
Cool.
But who's going to tell me there is something which does not seem to be right here? It's an AI engine, right? If I need to advance my behavior pattern, so suppose in a supply chain, this is one of the work that I had spoken. I think it was 2019, and I'm still kind of trying to finish it with a PhD student. The idea was for decentralized procurement.
Okay.
Okay, and decentralized procurement, what we kind of modeled was that if two people kind of if businesses kind of have a relationship approach, that's what happens in supply chain. If you and I are have a relation, both of us will benefit more. But if
Right.
you're only transactional, we will not be able to grow the size of a supply chain. That's the fundamental hypothesis.
Right.
But what happens here is, for relation, I need to trust you, right? How do I trust you? Especially in a decentralized environment, it becomes even more problematic, right? I don't know you. So over here, that relationship aspect can be driven by an AI engine, which is essentially going to influence the oracle or influence my behavior pattern that, hey, you can give this person a loan or you can partner with this person because we've looked at their transaction
Right.
in a very privacy protected manner.
Right.
Okay, without having to tell you what I have seen. This I have looked at their transaction, it looks all good. So AI can come into play in that area. So AI, I think, will be embedded
Mm-hmm.
into. I mean, in fact, most of the platforms are looking at a layer 2 AI system for more throughput and be able to support applications with that. So I feel that's almost there. It's we'll see that coming in a big way very soon.
Right. Interesting, interesting, very interesting. And those who are, could see my light flickering, please don't mind. I'm having a little power issue here, but it should not, deviate from the conversation we are having. Okay, so Nikhil, I wanted to kind of know about the DeFi insurance model as well. So could you just shed some light on how that particular thing works?
So, I mean, if you tell me what do you envision as a DeFi insurance model, I would say a decentralized community, which is where everybody is going to do something. And again, AI can be my underwriter, and then off you
Right.
go. We are all becoming people who are putting in money to an insurance pool.
Mm-hmm.
However, all of us know that insurance is a very deeply regulated profession.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. Nobody, I mean, I can't sell insurance, or we, all of us together can't make an insurance product, right?
True.
But there is one model of getting into these kind of system where we could become a capital pool,
Okay.
right? We could put in capital into an insurance company. Yeah, of course, centralized again. We hate them. That's all that is fine. But that could be a DeFi protocol for us, which would kind of negotiate with an insurance company that I could give you the liquidity,
Mm-hmm.
or you could put in your liquidity with me, and we could do certain things with that. Yeah. Uh, I mean, that's definitely one insurance model I see. Definitely parametric insurance, I
Okay.
feel, is going to be deeply influenced by smart contracts, very deeply influenced.
Okay.
Parametric insurance is, my flight delayed,
Okay.
weather data, rain data, all kinds of things, yeah, which is like a very black and white kind of thing, which is not very fuzzy, where, of course, you have to secure the oracle over there. But suppose the oracle, assuming that the oracle is safe, a smart contract based parametric products would definitely start coming in a big way. The other thing is a claim processing and payout. Again, that would be a smart contract process, but time t equals to zero, I'll be able to get the payments because the company has put that money in a smart has deposited the money in the smart contract, right? Again, that uh, this is a bit of a challenge, but flight insurance, like flight delay insurances, we are seeing a lot of things. Weather delay insurance, we are seeing a lot of things. Uh, Although these are kind of one-off side products, nice to have products, let me delve into the area of insurance by big companies, but we will only see this grow more when we have this whole construct of decentralized insurance.
Right.
And I feel that decentralized insurance is we are there is some daylight there. I don't think we will be able to get that so soon,
Right.
because we don't know the risks yet, right? If I go and tell you, I mean, of course, with all smart people around from security analysis perspective,
Mm-hmm.
they will say, I cannot do an underwriting of a smart contract that easily, right? Of course, I can give you insurance up to $200 or $500, right? But even the big banks, when they blew up in 2007, 2008, people lost tons of money because the underwriting was only $100,000. If you have more than $100,000, it's gone, right? And so I mean, to be able to underwrite a smart contract is even more difficult,
Right.
right? Even if it's transparent, I mean, the good part is transparent. It's not opaque like the banks. But even if it's transparent, how do I do a risk mitigation strategy, or a risk analysis
Mm-hmm.
of this particular smart contract when these smart contracts are built dime and dozen in different kinds of standards?
Right.
So unless until we have some kind of a standardization, I feel we will not get to see too many things happening in the insurance space, because insurance space is very traditional. Yeah. And people like to get insured in a traditional manner, not in a very non-traditional manner. Maybe these parametric insurance there, but other things I feel that, AXA Capital like has started this flight insurance thing.
Okay.
There are some weather insurance products that people are talking about with this climate change and other things, with high temperature for daily wage workers. So small alternate insurances can pop up, but the big insurance, we will have to wait and watch how
Mm-hmm.
things are coming. There are some things I hear, but again, to me, I'm not very convinced that they actually will be able to support you in a big way. Suppose you have like $10 million in your wallet, you can go and buy insurance to be able to secure. But what is the risk assessment if something gets breached? I don't know. But I have not seen anything kind of come in that's an insurance paid that person $10 million because they lost their $10 million. Maybe you'll get $100,000, right? So that's another issue as of now.
Right. True, true. Okay. In the evolving the security space, do you have any tools in your mind, who are tools or protocols that are playing a really key role in this whole digital asset security space?
Yeah, so I mean, I talked to you about this group. I'm just trying to kind of recollect their full name. It was they are called Actus. Yeah. So
Okay.
this is algorithmic contract types unified standards, which is basically to do with which is to do with the standards for encoding financial assets, digital assets.
Okay.
Okay. Then you have, of course, we're talking about tools and talking about solution. We are, hosted by, I mean, SecureDApp is kind of doing the SecureDApp. I'm
Great.
very happy to be able to mention to you that we've looked at from an Algorand perspective, from an Ethereum blockchain perspective for the EVM chains. They've done an amazing job. They continue to do some amazing job in this area with their solutionings for continuous monitoring.
Right. Right.
Yeah. So this is more of a not of a prevention. So Actus is more of a prevention. This is a continuous monitoring process. Yeah. There are other things that people are talking about, which is slightly more complicated at a protocol level, where we are building things like zero knowledge proof,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
So zero knowledge proof is again to be able to make sure that we are all secure, we are able to build things around it.
Right.
Very recently, people have started talking about AI integration. Let's put another layer on top, which is AI, and AI would kind of help to do all kinds of security analysis.
Right.
Uh, then comes in this whole interoperability issue, which is where most of the attacks happen when things get locked into a smart contract and gets opened up into another platform for transaction. Essentially, get more liquidity. Suppose
Right.
I build something in platform A and I've done some transaction, but then I see, hey, platform B has liquidity, so I'm going to go to a bridge and lock this particular asset and create the representative of the asset and do transaction in the other platform. Then I have to go through a bridge. Those bridges are very, very easy points because too much of money is locked in there. So wormhole, layer zero, these are different kinds of solutions which are kind of making sure that we are protected
Right.
at these kind of interfaces. If you look at a wallet level, I advise all of you who are having your own self custody wallets, to have a hardware wallet. That's a very important thing. If you have assets which can be easily stolen, because if you have a very hot wallet all the time and you're not playing in the DeFi space, not that I'm not advising you not to play in the DeFi space, but if you're not playing in the DeFi space and you're just kind of holding it, right, then you might as well put it into a cold wallet. You could put it in a hardware wallet, so that it's much more easier for you to protect yourself.
Right.
We also have mechanisms that are coming in on a lot of things have been talked of right now on oracles. And one of the things that Chainlink is doing recently is this whole construct of decentralized oracles.
Okay.
So these decentralized oracles would have some kind of a model to be able to triangulate the risks. So essentially, if you have one nasty piece that is giving you something that would break the smart contract,
Okay.
then we would have mechanisms to be able to triangulate the risk. Somebody would balance it and say, this guy has some problems here. We are also creating avenues, and this is a very big avenue right now, where there is a multi-party computation. So essentially, it's not just me, but it's me, Harshjeet, and Karan. All three or two of us have to sign to be
Right.
able to run this transaction. Yeah. So there are mechanisms. Okay. It's just that these are isolated, but yeah, wormhole, of course, is not isolated. Wormhole is pretty big. Okay, layer zero is pretty big, but like companies like SecureDApp, don't mean to kind of promote them, but they are good, so I have to talk about it. Uh, so these are solutions which will make our solution, which will make the DeFi ecosystem safer, which will make people, kind of want to come into this space and not be worried about it.
Right. Great. I actually also, I wanted to move to the poll, but before that, I have I'm loving your analogies for explaining certain, terms. You talk about ZK, zero knowledge. Could you just shed some little more light on it, just in case folks aren't really aware of how ZK works? It'd be great if you could, slightly shed some light on it.
So this is ZK is the cryptography in action. Yeah, I mean it's it's a mathematicians, of course, computer science and mathematics have converged in a computer science is an application of mathematics. But
Right.
I mean, just to kind of give you a simple example, I always kind of tell people, different examples. So when I used to be in Canada for 15 years before moving here in 2016 in the United States.
Okay.
And in Canada, it was a different kind of a structure.
Okay.
But I go here, of course, I go and just buy a bottle of wine. In Canada, you could get bottle of wine in a corner, at least in Montreal, you get in a corner store. It's not like, it's cool. It's very European, at least Montreal. But in US, I go into a store and the first thing this guy looks at me and says, "Can I see an ID?" And
Okay.
I'm like, thank you, buddy. Do I look like less than 25 to you? And he's like, "Oh, no, I still need to see an ID." And I'm like, "All right, here you go." I show my ID.
Mhm.
Now, my ID, okay, has all kinds of things. It has my address, right? It has my date of birth.
Right.
Okay. Now, this kid who is kind of doing the checkout for me might not be, maybe, okay, maybe just 25, 26 years old. But
Right.
all these smart glasses, right? This kid can easily take a picture of my ID and do whatever they want to do. Yeah. Because my ID has sensitive information. It's not that it is kind of abstracted, it's star, star, star or something. Yeah. So the construct over here is, why do I need to tell you? Okay, I look like more than 25, of course. I take it as a compliment. I thought I took it as a compliment, but then he kind of took it away by telling me that actually it's not a compliment. I need to check an ID.
Right.
But my concern over here is that why can't I just tell you that I'm over 25? Why do you need to know my date of birth? Why do you need to know my address? That's all redundant information, right?
Right.
So what if I have some kind of a secure mechanism where I have a token, right, which I show to Harshjit and say, "Harshjit, this is my token. This
Right.
is issued, right? This is authentic, and I'm over 25. You don't need to know anything more,
Right.
right?"
True.
That's in a very simple way explaining what zero knowledge is, right? Right. Another way of looking at it is like, I can solve the Rubik. I mean, not me, but I'm giving you an example. There are people who can solve the Rubik cube in 3 seconds or 4 seconds. Yeah. Harshjit will say, "Hey, very good, but I need to see you do that."
Right.
Okay. Otherwise, I'm not trusting you.
Mhm.
Okay, because you just claiming. So now this person will have to do this Rubik cube 3 second thingy right in front of you for you to be able to trust that person. You might be checking the time for 3 or 4 seconds, but you might have a recording system to be able to see how that is done. Yeah, right. Now, basically, their secret sauce now comes out to you in front of you just because they have to demonstrate something that they have, right? Now, what if you got to know that they have solved the Rubik Cube in 3 or 4 seconds
Mhm.
without actually having them to solve the Rubik Cube, right? And that model of how they solve the Rubik Cube is cryptographically protected, right? That's the key mantra of zero knowledge. I gave you two different examples to be able to kind of relate and understand. That's the essence, key idea behind zero knowledge. Now, how that is implemented, how that is wrapped, how that is stored, there are multiple ways of doing it. There are some malicious ways of doing things. Like there are people who kind of want to have all these information wrapped and just say I am done a transaction to be able to make sure that they cannot be traced. At the same time, there are different transactions that are clubbed in together and then tied into a system so that now, it's all into like a put in a homogeneous liquid. Now you don't know what are the different components inside it, but they are a part of the liquid. That's what they are able to show. So there are different implementation
Mhm.
of zero knowledge. But that, in essence, that's what kind of constitutes this whole zero knowledge proof. Yeah.
Perfect, perfect. I think that that completely explains what exactly it is. I'm actually liking all your analogies and examples, so that's why I wanted to kind of shed some light on it. Okay, so we before we move to the for the questions, we again have one poll for all you folks. You can see the poll in your screen. Please feel free to engage with it. We have like 10 to 15 seconds. Oh, okay. So let's just move to the further questions. I am going to like this part because I love knowing details and how everything works. Recently, a lot of hacks have happened. Was Erex, $254 million, Bybit, $1.5 billion, most probably one of the biggest hacks ever. They also came out, publicly saying we have learned from whatever has happened. Now, what do do you really think like there is a significant difference in terms of security risks when it comes to centralized exchanges and decentralized exchanges? How different the risks are or the type of attacks are? Could you just talk about that?
More than the attack, I would just kind of talk about the experience. Let me give you the experience to be able to kind
Certainly.
of give you a scale of attack that could possibly happen.
Hmm.
So assume, Harjeet, that you go into Europe, yeah,
Right.
and you have some euros on you.
Okay.
Okay. And you don't have euros, sorry. You have lots of euros, but suppose you're traveling with rupees on you, okay?
Right.
And then you have to do some transactions in Europe. Europe is not as smart as India, where everything is digital.
Okay.
Everything you need to kind of do transactions in euros. So now you have two models of doing it. Yeah, you would go to a bank.
Okay.
Back in those days, we used to go with all these traveled American Express cards, which would say American Express certificates. Of course, that
Yeah.
was ages back. That gives you an idea of my age also. We
Mhm.
used to not carry cash, but traveler's check. Okay.
Right.
And then we would go to a bank and say, hey, this is what I have. This is my passport. Can I get currency? Okay. Now, what can the bank do? Right? The bank can just take all the money, okay,
Hmm.
and 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 put them. Say, I can create a virtual account for you, Harjeet, while you are in Europe, and
Okay.
I'll put all the money on that. And this is a card. You can go and play with this card. Yeah, you'll be like, oh, that's super cool. That's so convenient, right? But there could be a scenario where the bank would be like, Harjeet, by the way, we took all the money from you, but when we verified on further verification, we realized that last time you overstayed here. Okay, the authority said that we'll have to freeze all your funds.
Okay.
Okay, okay. Then Harjeet makes a payment to somebody through that banking system, and the bank makes some kind of a mistake. Yeah. No, there are different kinds of security risks that you could be getting into. Suppose you, with that money, by mistake, you go into Russia.
Mhm.
Okay. We are Indians, we can go to Russia, but then with that European money, I spent something in Russia.
Mhm.
They will say, you spend money in Russia, I'm going to be blocking you now.
Okay.
Yeah, right. So this centralized exchange problem is what is a institutional problem, is one institution which is opaque to you, but is claiming that I will protect you. If you go to a bank,
Right.
do you feel unsafe? How many of us feel unsafe when we go to a bank? I don't think anybody feels unsafe when you go to a bank. You feel like, हाँ यहाँ पे मेरा पैसा ठीक रहेगा, no problem, everything will be fine here. Okay, even if we know that that is a centralized entity, you go and try to take money. I mean, I get frustrated so many times when I go and try to withdraw cash and say, oh, your limit is not that I'm very rich, but suppose I want to pay somebody in cash. It says not more than $200. Like, come on, man. Oh, you'll have to go to the branch, and my branch is not even here. I have to go to New York City. Like, I have to drive 30 miles to be able to get cash. What are you talking about? I have money in my bank account. Why can't I get it? No, you can't get it from an ATM. Okay. So these are all different things that you would face with a centralized system because they are opaque to us. They're institutions. Not that I hate institutions, but institutions are designed to be able to kind of have that red tape around them. Otherwise, they would cease to exist. Yeah. Now, let's talk about more freedom here. Yeah. Now, you go to a small town and there is no bank. Instead of kind of doing your currencies, these people are saying, hey, it's like Singapore. Yeah, it's like we have some mechanism. I'll give you an application. With this application, we will you give us cash, and in that application, we'll load you money.
Okay.
So you just scan and give you money. Okay. So this is a person who's just having lots of currencies, and they'll just give you money. There's no bank associated here. This person is doing a peer-to-peer transaction. Now,
Okay.
what are the problems that you could have here? I'm just giving you the scale of problems. Yeah.
Okay.
The
Okay.
problem is that it is your responsibility to be able to make that money that is with you safe, right? It is your problem to be able to identify whether this person who's giving me
Right.
this money is actually a real person.
Right.
If this person is a scamster, what am I going to do? Right? Also, you are doing this in an open market. Yeah. Others are seeing what is the exchange rate that Harjit is getting.
Right.
They might just go and kind of front run you, right? They'll just kind of buy other currency. And what would happen is now the person will say, hey, my application said I will give you for every 80 rupees, I will give you an euro. But now I'm short of euro, so I'll have to give you for 81 rupees. So now you lose money. That's
Right.
called a front running problem. Yeah. So even if it's very transparent, you're seeing the person, you're seeing everything, you are controlling everything.
Mm-hmm.
Decentralized has a different set of problems, and centralized has different set of problems. Centralized is where we are powerless,
Correct.
right? In a way, because the banks are more stronger than us. We made the banks, but the bank became stronger than us. Decentralized, we are in a way feel very powerful under control, but if something bad happens, it is our responsibility. So which one of the two should we choose? So that's my simple analogy when I talk about the security risk when it comes to centralization and decentralization.
Right.
And both are, have their own problems, but depending on the choice of the person.
Right. Makes sense. Yeah. And moving on to the next question, it's more like again, I have this very pokey thought on it. So even if it's from a media perspective and from a hack perspective, why decentralized exchanges are becoming a target. I mean, in for hackers, maybe they see that there's a lot of money sitting there, and from a media perspective as well. I mean, we are talking about all the these exchanges getting hacked, but I mean, I'm pretty sure there's hacks happening in the web2 part as well. Could you just shed some light on both the aspects from security and hacking point of view, and why does the reputational hit is so much more on a decentralized exchange?
Yeah, sure. See, anything which is going to break the norm
Right.
is going to face resistance, right? I mean, historically, philosophically, we've had philosophers who had to drink the poison because they said something against the institution, right? That's how the world has evolved, right? I mean, when Neil Bohr said that quantum entanglement is there, Einstein said, "Hey, are you telling me that there is no moon?" And there is a moon just because I see it. So Einstein also mistook quantum system. So
Right.
I'm not going that far, but I'm just kind of coming to bringing us back to the ground here. Is the idea is that centralized, decentralized exchange are a diamond dozen. Everybody can launch it. It's
Okay.
like you know. Let me give you a simple example here. Like imagine, yeah, uh, uh, we watch a lot of movies, especially in this Netflix thing with heists, right? A lot of heist stories that are happening. These heist stories are coming on Netflix series. Show what do they show? They show an entry barrier, right?
Okay.
Yeah, it's difficult to get into that ecosystem to be able to steal things.
Right.
Yeah, right. So this is the whole structure of a centralized system. It's very difficult to get there to steal things. Yeah.
Right.
But imagine, like, in Assam, where I grew up in a small town in Margarita,
Right.
right? When it was the Saraswati Puja, what would happen is we would have to lock our gates because all the flowers, people would come and steal the flowers,
Right.
and so DeFi is like an open garden which anybody can go and get things.
Okay.
Yeah, not anybody can go and get things, anybody has access to,
Access.
right? Right. And if you don't lock it well, if you don't have, and that time we didn't have security cameras, if you don't put security cameras, if you don't have a monitoring system, if you don't have things put in place, but you just planted flowers saying, hey, I want a beautiful garden here,
Right.
then there'll be more breaches. Bankings are not done like that. They have built a security firewall before they start doing things. But most DeFi protocol, they assume that security is implicitly built in the system. Let's launch a DeFi protocol,
Right.
right? So that's one of the problems in DeFi, and of course, just by the sheer number, right? I'm pretty sure the number of DeFi protocols in the world will very soon cross the number of banks or
Right.
centralized institutions, right? So, I mean, you will have, the more you have, the more the breaches you have. Somebody told me when I came to US that the most cars that are stolen in US is Honda Civic.
Okay.
I said, okay, that's interesting, but this data is not right. Like, why? Because the most cars that are driven was Honda Civic. So, of course, if you have more cars, they will be stolen more, right?
Certainly.
I mean, if you say more cars are stolen is Ferrari, if you like only Ferrari population is 1 in 50,000, 100,000, 1 million, then that's the whole idea here. So the more you have, the more things will happen. But again, uh, these are prime targets because they have come up. They have come up in a big way. In many ways, I would also advise all people who are playing in the DeFi space, working in the DeFi space, setting up DeFi, to be able to make security your primary consideration. Think like the centralized system security. You should inherit that model. You should look at them, how they kind of put in so much of money and time on security. Over here, don't have to put money and time on security, but you have to put your that should be in your plan of things. If you don't put this in your plan of things, then we have a problem. And that's why I feel these are prime targets.
Right. Right. Okay. So talking about security for these exchanges, could you just lay out maybe a layer by layer ways that how these exchanges can secure themselves or secure the whole their whole infrastructure.
Yeah, yeah. So I think I mentioned this, is this the whole fort example, right?
Right. Right.
So first of all, right, what needs to be done is, uh, you definitely, most definitely need to have some kind of a mechanism to be able to first protect your digital assets.
Okay.
So
Okay.
what are my digital assets, right? Uh, Now, over there, pragmatism is definitely required. Like, I'll give you an example. In Algorand, we have mechanisms to be able to define digital assets which will go from one wallet to the other wallet, but it has a manager wallet,
Okay.
which means the assets will be frozen, okay, until the manager says, okay, this transaction is approved. Okay, again, that manager can be a DAO. If you want decentralization, that's fine. But you have to have those mechanisms. Don't make it like a very peer-to-peer. Pure
Right.
peer-to-peer might be very cool to think of, but it's not a scalable thing. Okay, so at a protocol level, choose the right protocol which gives you these means.
Okay.
Right. See, like, as much as I like the EVM chains, I think the EVM chains were made to build decentralized communities,
Right.
right? To be able to build tokens around which communities could evolve. You could have different, but you have to think about enterprise grade blockchain. And enterprise grade blockchain does not necessarily mean private blockchain. Public blockchains of the third generation are becoming enterprise grade because they are realizing that there is that is one marketplace, or that is one area which was not looked at with this whole, when smart contracts came in with the EVM chain. So I feel that choose the right blockchain. It's very important. Make sure that the blockchain has basic assets for you to be able to create these different kinds of avenues.
Right.
I was just speaking to a friend of mine who runs one of India's biggest micro banking institutions. And what they were telling me is, biggest problem with UPI that we have now is I can drop money in anybody's address. So now I can give money to anyone over here if I have their UPI address, right? Now, if I have to frame you, imagine that this whole framing thing, right? If I have to frame you, I can drop money in your wallet without you knowing it also.
Right.
Yeah. We also have the same issue in US, but over here you need to know my bank and routing number and other.
Right.
In India, it's much easier to get with the UPI. Yeah.
UPI.
Now, you have not accepted the money, but that money lands into your bank.
Right.
Right. What do you do with it?
I mean,
Right.
yeah.
I mean, from a regulatory perspective, right? It might be like too good to get money,
Right.
but
But
it is
I'm
very
going to
dangerous to
check.
get that
Right.
money,
Of course. Of
right?
course. Of course.
Right. So what if I send money, but
Mm-hmm.
you will only get the money when you accept it?
Accept it. When I know, like, I'm getting it from a source I trust.
Correct. Because that money could be a programmed money, could be doing certain things in your, it could be
Right.
multitude of things, right?
Right.
I mean, you go to your MetaMask wallet, and
Mm-hmm.
the first time I looked at MetaMask, like, when did I buy all these tokens? And I like 10 million tokens that have been dumped into my account, right?
Right.
These could be tokens which would be phishing tokens, all kinds of things. Yeah.
Correct.
So Algorand, this is one of the things, interesting things that I really love in this protocol is when you send anything to someone, that person will not get it in their wallet unless until they accept it.
Okay. Okay.
That's a cool stuff. Yeah.
Right.
There is a there is a functionality which is called clawback. Now that might again defy the logic of decentralized. People will say, "Hey, decentralization means you put things in my wallet and you can take it back." No, this is a regulator system. So
Right.
now, if I give the keys to a regulator in my ecosystem, the regulator should have the ability to be able to seize your wallet.
Mm-hmm.
How can a regulator seize your wallet when you have the private keys, right?
Right.
By taking all the tokens. So over here, we are giving that clawback functionality. I mean, when you draw solutions. So at a protocol level, there has to be some things built when you are looking at security. Then the next layer of security is your application level security,
Okay.
whether your application is exposing things.
Mm-hmm.
Then the other level security is going to be a smart contract level security. How you
Right.
build your smart contract, whether they have been tested, you've done brute force testing, stress testing, validation methods. What are the different things? There could be integer overflow errors, logic
Right.
errors, re-entrancy errors. Like why you can go into a smart contract, keep withdrawing money
Right.
for eternity. That's what happened in the DAO project. Yeah. Access control. I can kind of get your private keys and then off you go. I mean, I know people who write their pin behind their ATM cards. Yeah.
Right.
So this
Right.
is something like, you kind of shared your private keys in a WhatsApp group, and now Harjit, I have every single thing that you have.
Right.
Right. So how are your private keys protected?
Mhm.
Where are you storing your private keys? Uh, then comes the broader ecosystem is the Oracle protection systems. Uh, then all these other things that are happening, right? The rug pools. How do we kind of manage things? So there's lot of mechanisms by which we will have to build things. There are different layers of security, but I think it starts from a protocol. It starts from a user level security, and then kind of grows bigger and bigger.
Okay, so we have covered that security part for exchanges now. I think the regulatory frameworks need to evolve as well, along with, right? How does, how that can happen?
So decentralization. See, I mean, when we use the word regulator, then we kind of give this whole idea of a centralized system. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
regulation is done in a centralized. I mean,
Right.
uh, and this happens with every disruptive technology,
Right.
right? I mean, now with AI, we are hearing so many different kinds of things, right? I mean, just that I've spoken long enough now, my voice can be used to, you can send to 11 labs and they would be able to kind of train with my voice all this time. And now, suddenly I can be saying things which I have never said,
Right.
right? My video can be just by doing my images, you could have a high-end resolution video, and then by the time you decide it's deep fake, it's already done the damage to my
Right.
identity. Yep. Right. So and the regulations are coming in, but the technology is moving faster than that. Now, especially in this space which is been there, the good part is with finance, right? There is regulation, but those regulations won't work in the DeFi space, unfortunately, because that is designed from a different thing, a different perspective altogether. So how do we define regulations? Right. And this is where governments, which are very resistant because they feel that, their currency would no longer be important, because if they kind of move to crypto or these kind of tokens, stablecoin tokens, right? So we still at a point where regulations are not going to come in that easily, right? I always welcome regulations, because the moment regulations are created in this space, it
Right.
means that there is institutionalization. Yeah.
Right.
But regulations are still very fuzzy, and having no regulations is even worse, right? So in most of the cases, we see that instead of regulation, we don't have any regulation because people don't know,
Mhm.
right? I mean, not very long ago, when this person, the Facebook founder, came to the US, for testifying, people asked him a simple question: "How do you make money?" And he was shocked, and he said, "By ads." What are you talking about? He didn't even know how Facebook makes money, and this is about how many years? About 8, 9 years back,
Right.
right? So how can you expect a deep computer science technology, a cryptography technology, which is evolving on a daily basis, to be understood by people who are not even literate?
Mhm.
I mean, the regulators,
Right.
the people who define regulation. I mean, I'm not saying literate means from a perspective, I'm
Yeah, yeah.
technical literate, right? So there has to be some kind of leadership coming in from a decentralized regulation perspective.
Mhm.
And decentralized regulation could be different groups like actors, right? Which is coming, where different protocols are saying, hey, we are going to be a part of this decentralized group. We will build the standards around us, and then we will go to as representations to different governments to be able to tell them we are safe, we are secure, we are compliant, we will follow the laws of the land, right? We are not here to do transactions for somebody threatening someone, or somebody, they kind of, there are some places where I saw that say, you know what, I have your computer hacked, your computer now, give me this much money in Bitcoin. I'm like, okay, Bitcoin, why not cash? Because cash is actually really, not traceable. Bitcoin is traceable. I can trace you, but they use Bitcoin to be able to show that it is much more easier for criminals, right? So what I'm trying to say is that these decentralized regulations will have to come in from the established protocols, to be able to kind of have open systems, not monopolize things, but be able to build wrappers around their token systems, their smart contract systems, to be able to be compliant. So again, this would have to move from a centralized to decentralized space,
Right.
but there has to be some kind of a centralization set into play.
Okay, okay. This is getting like so interesting, and this whole conversation can go for like another hour, to be very honest, because there's so much to cover. However, you have been talking, you have been shedding light on so many aspects. So I'll just kind of wrap with one last question, which I'm going to put in like two parts. Where do you see digital asset protection in DeFi, like down the line, down 5 years down the line? And the second part would be, various platforms are going to be there over the years. How various platforms and various players can collaborate to make the space, more secure.
So first of all, I absolutely think that AI should come into the blockchain mainstream,
Right.
and this is what I feel that in the next 5 years we would have a real synergistic relationship between artificial intelligence and all kind of blockchain system. AI systems are now coding systems, verifying systems, testing systems, creating different kinds of scenarios, all kinds of things, hallucinating also, but doing a lot of interesting things too. Yeah,
Right.
I feel that we will have some kind of mechanism which would be able to do formal verification and validation of my protocol. As of now, we don't have one. As of now, we think we can put it in chat GPT and say, hey, it is safe. It'll hallucinate and say, yeah, you're safe. Yeah,
Right.
or you're not safe, whatever. Yeah, but that's not, you would have to have something like a SLM, built on specific areas, SLM for finance, right? And this small language model, which would kind of protect your privacy, also your intellectual asset, also that you could license and run, and that could evolve for you. So these could be one of the things. I feel that zero knowledge is going to get more and more coming into mainstream, more and more coming into mainstream. But for that, we need to have decentralized IDs with verifiable credentials. Now, the decentralized ID with verified credential can be a problem, right?
Right.
So, I mean, I just that will come out pretty soon. Is I have created a model which is called a tokenized the abstraction of data.
Right.
Okay, and that's essentially to do with the DigiLocker and Aadhaar in India.
Right.
So the tokenized abstraction of India is it's kind of I'm issuing you a token because I have verified that you have this thing in your DigiLocker,
Right.
which is issued by a publisher. Now I have abstracted your data and completely decoupled it.
Right.
Now this token can have different levels of granularity, and with this token I will be able to assert, to be able to do multiple things with you essentially. Yeah. So that's one of the things that I feel will come in. Then of course this whole multi sig wallets are going to be the future. The wallet recovery models are going to be the future. uh, Insurance has to evolve. DeFi, umbrella insurance, DeFi insurance, whenever we are doing interacting with, there has to be some kind of evolution in that area.
Right.
And last but not the least, I think we will create community-based security frameworks also. Once we are able to kind of figure out how these DAOs could work in cohesion and how there is an incentive for good behavior.
Right.
That's I feel is going to be another interesting area that I look forward in the next 5 years.
Right. Fantastic. Fantastic. I think we had an amazing session. I mean, the amount of value and insight in terms of security in the whole decentralized space we got, it's really really valuable. I'm pretty sure folks joining us here on YouTube everywhere have learned a lot of things, and I'm pretty sure they'll be more aware of how the ecosystem works in terms of security and the broader aspect as well. Now, before taking questions from, we have like questions from few folks, but before taking that, uh, I'm going to share the winner from our poll from the last week's webinar. I'll just quickly share the winner here. Let me just. I am having a little technical difficulty here. Maybe Karan can further, share the winner from the last poll. We'll move directly to the questions that we have received from some of the folks joining in.
Yeah, we can start with the question, and once they are completed, I can share it.
Yeah, perfect, perfect, Karan. Cool. I think there are like 4 or 5 questions. I'll pick like two interesting ones. There's one from Ayush. He has asked why AI is not good enough without blockchain. That's very interesting.
Very good question, Ayush.
Right.
Well, we'll have to go for another 2 hours for that, but I'll just go on a very so what happens with AI systems is two things. How do we actually build an artificial intelligence system? Yeah. Building an artificial intelligence system, one of the key things is how do we kind of train that model? Yeah. And the training of the model is a very, very critical piece for that model to be effective. Right. In the past, what we've seen is we've used models with wrong data, with synthetic data, which is not representative of the population. Again, I'm speaking a few technical terms. I apologize because I just want to answer that quickly, which is not a representative of the population. And then your AI classification algorithms, or any kind of your algorithm which AI is going to do, is not going to be correct. Okay. So data integrity, data accuracy, data backing, data ownership are very key things. These large language models are being trained, are being fed with all kinds of data. right? I wrote a research paper which was within a firewall of, say, a publisher. Yeah. Now, took that digital copy of that research paper, which actually is my intellectual asset, and co-ownership with the publisher, into and fed it into ChatGPT to be able to get a summary. I want to see what this person said. Okay, that was an innocent mistake. But what happened is now my intellectual asset has been fed into the AI, and somebody else is going to benefit from it. What is going to where am I going to benefit from it? Not that I'm only money minded here, but you get my point here, right? Intellectual assets are being breached left, right, and center with our artificial intelligence. Yeah. So we have to have some kind of a mechanism to be able to assert that, hey, this AI system has been trained with data which has been authentic. And who's going to assert that? It's a blockchain based system, right? So I feel that is one of the key things. Data privacy is the other thing, which is, in fact, if you go to, I'm not trying to promote myself, but if you go to my Medium, I've written an article about a personal friend, a friend of mine, my own friend, which is actually an AI system. I call it Sprulpa. It's a Tibetan word for a mystic friend that thinks like me. Imagine that I have a friend, which is an AI friend, which knows me right from I was a kid and evolved. Right now, today, I mean, this will happen in the future. Right, tomorrow, I tell my Sproul, that, hey, I want to go and do business with this company. Should I do business with them? Then they'll be like, Nikhil, these are your value system. These are the things that you said in the past don't make sense. These are things which are not aligned with this company's vision. If you do these things with this company, you might lose. Somebody might come and say, hey, you're not sticking to your word. Okay. Or if I say I want to learn quantum computing, right? They'll say, quantum computing, these are the things that you're missing because last time you kind of, when you started reading, you stopped over here. Let me kind of get you started from here. So that's my AI engine. Now imagine that if I am going to have an AI engine which is going to know me to that extent, who's going to secure me? It's not the AI engine. AI engine is an AI engine. It is going to be a blockchain based system which is going to secure me, right? So I feel that AI is not complete with the blockchain, and I really mean it. I mean, it is not safe to use AI openly. Big companies have stopped asked their people to not use AI for client data, for other things, because there's a privacy breach problem.
Right, right. Okay. We'll take like one more question. Folks, if I somehow, miss out, one of your questions, please pardon me. I'll take up one question for Nikhil again. Is India ready for mass DeFi adoption from a regulatory and security standpoint?
Very, very good question. India is ready for everything. India is has been a very, very inclusive country right from the very onset. It is just that the DeFi is sometimes presumed to be anti-government. Yeah. So one of the things that we have to see from a DeFi perspective is that these are the things that we discussed today, is how we secure things, right? From a regulatory perspective, right? How are we making sure that the DPDP Act is within my DeFi system? Right? I mean, the DPDP Act with from MITI is a very key thing to protect the citizens of India, right? My privacy should be protected. Nobody should be able to sell my data. Yeah. So if I'm able to make a DeFi system which informs the regulators on who's making how much of money, yeah, what is the transaction? I am doing the transaction in rupees. That there is a token-based system at the in doing all the transaction, the backend system. And when anybody generates any kind of revenue, it's reported to the government of India. I feel the government of India would be very receptive. We have a digital first technology. So India actually is much more prepared, in my opinion, than any country in the world, because with Aadhaar and DigiLocker, we have an amazing system already built in there. We just have to kind of operationalize it to be able to build DeFi. Of course, these whole crazy DeFi solutions, which are rug pull solutions, basically, uh, I would not promote them. I'm talking about institutional based systems. Yeah. I'm talking about, I gave you an example of parametric insurance, right? India is ready for parametric insurance. In fact, there is parametric insurance in India right now, right? Now, Which protocol, where do we place it? That is again a contentious issue because public blockchains are seen a bit differently than a private blockchain. In fact, I personally feel that private blockchains are not blockchains, in my opinion. Okay, but we could have a hybrid blockchain kind of a structure to be able to secure certain things and to use the leverage of public blockchain to be able to do other transactions. So there are different kinds of configurations that we could possibly have. You get me? But India definitely is ready for DeFi. India, he can do DeFi. India is doing DeFi.
Perfect. Perfect. I think it has been an incredible session so far. And I especially loved, being your brain and, kind of extract as much value as possible. Dr. Nikhil Varma, thank you so much for coming to this session. It has
Harshajit, sorry to interrupt. Winners poster. So these are our winners. Pundarikaksh and Lakshay. So these are winners of the last session. Many congrats to them. They will get exclusive SecureDApp merch in the coming days. So yeah, many congrats. Thank you, Pundarikaksh and Lakshay, for attending our sessions and yeah, giving the right answer for our polls. And hope you keep attending our sessions again and interact with our polls.
So, Dr. Nikhil Verma, thank you so much. And it has been an amazing, amazing session. Do you have any final words for our audience?
Yeah, the only advice that I would give everyone is be open to DeFi. Okay, and DeFi is not as much as it might sound complex, it is very simple,
Right.
right? It is for the common people. Try to solve a problem. Don't try to fit a solution into a problem. Try to look at things around us. India countries, I think blockchain solutions are made for countries like India, where we have a diverse population, where we have population who are secluded from the mainstream just because they kind of missed out. We are growing at an exponential rate, but unfortunately there is still a big population in our country who are missing the basics. And if we are able to provide the means with this is not a social cause, by the way. Yeah, there is a lot of fortune at the bottom of the pyramid, and DeFi could be your route to be able to get there. So I encourage all of you innovators to be able to think about that. And whenever you have a solution or think about something interesting, feel free to reach out to me. I'll be able to happy to brainstorm you, guide you, or even mentor you to be able to do that.
That'd be perfect. Now, and a huge, huge, huge thank you to all the folks joining in. Thank you so much for taking out time and joining this session and making it interactive. I hope that I have been able to, do justice in terms of questions and making this session as much valuable as possible for you folks. So yeah, thank you so much for your engagement. And before we kind of wrap, I would like to thank our partners and sponsors. I would also like to thank SciSec, cybersecurity wing of Karnataka government, owned and managed by IISc Bangalore, CCOE Hyderabad, and Winserve Incubation for coming forward as partner and co-host this special initiative. Thank you so much to our partners and sponsors. So yep, that's about it. It has been an amazing session, and thank you so much to all.
Thank you, Harshit. It was amazing chatting with you. I look forward to meeting you soon.
Same here, same here. I would love to host you here.